Thank you, Ilya. Thank you very much for your presentation and for the many insights that you shared. Before moving to the next speaker, I would like to say that we will share all the slides at the end of the presentation. And at the same time, we're also recording this webinar, and we will update the recording to YouTube, to the official channel of the SME Center. There, we already have more than 200 previous webinar recordings. So you can follow or reach SME Center channel on YouTube. I will also take this occasion to display the results of the survey that we had at the beginning. As you see, we have first question, are you already exporting to China? We have a very big majority, I think around 2/3 of the participants already exporting to China and doing so mostly with local partners, so distributors and agents. But we also have someone already investing with a local, with a legal presence here, but also others selling through direct sales and cross-border e-commerce. We have received some questions, and those in the chat will be answered during the Q&A session. I would also encourage to send other questions, and please, if also maybe to include your email address, so that especially for questions involving data reports, because we have a lot of data from customs, and if we want to share them with you, we have to send them by email. So please also include your email address. Next, then I would now move to the next speaker, Ms. Guoran. Guoran she leads the CBBC's food and drink sector team that she provides together with her team support service to UK companies and also deliver studies, reports, trade missions in partnership with UK government departments and trade associations. She has also authored most of the USME Center reports that we have in the food and beverage sector. She's been working together with us for many years already, and so it's my great pleasure to welcome you today again, and I'll give the floor to you now.
Thank you, Alex. So it's absolutely my pleasure to be participating in this webinar. As Alessio has introduced, that we work very closely with the USME Center. Ourselves, so CBBC, China Britain Business Council, we are a non-governmental, non-for-profit organization based in both China and the UK. So I myself am based in Beijing, but then we also have colleagues that are based in the UK, and we provide market consultancy, various different services in Chinese market for British business, either in China or new to China. So without further delay, let me start my today's presentation. Okay, so topic of my today's presentation is to differentiate from what Ilya has just spoken about. So I'm going to discuss a little bit about the key trends in the food and drink sector in China, as well as the China consumer behaviors and some tips, hopefully, for communicating with Chinese market. I can see from the survey that you just did that over 50% of you are already exporting to China, and you have Chinese partners already. Then I hope my presentation could be useful, that you can take away some key points for Chinese market from this presentation. So Chinese consumers. To begin with, I would like to show you a diagram on the age distribution of internet users of the Chinese market. And why is this relevant? Because I do believe the internet users would actually overlap with your target consumers. And I know many of you may already have your products distributed through online channels. So online channels will be definitely very important for your global or Chinese sales. And it's probably, sorry to say that those that don't use internet are probably not your target consumers anyway. So I would just, let's just start from here. So from this diagram, you can see that 80% of the internet users in China are below 40. That means they are the millennials plus the Generation Z. And around 50% of them are below the age of 30, and only around 20% of them are 40 years old or older. So this shows us that the Chinese consumers or the Chinese internet users are extremely young. So that's extremely important for the brand owners and the distributors to be able to communicate with these very young consumers. So some more information on the demographic of the Chinese population. So like population in any other countries, that we have consumers developed into different age groups. For example, we have the Generation Z, for those people who were born between the year of 1965 and 1980. So they are basically the kids of the baby boomers, right? And then we have the millennials. These are the people born between 1981 and 1996, and I will be one of the millennials. And then we have the Gen Zs, of course, and then people born between 1997 and then 2010. So these, as many of you may already know, that Chinese government has adopted the one-child policies for many decades, and that has a very deep influence on the consumer behavior of Chinese consumers. So the Generation Z are the people that have grown up in extended families, many family members. So they generally embrace the traditional values. They celebrate the traditional festivals like Chinese New Year, the Mooncake Festival, and they embrace the traditional customs and cultures. And the millennials, like myself, are usually the single children, and they're raised up by as a single child, and they tend to be more self-centered compared to their parents, and they would embrace individualism. And the Generation Z, the next generation, they are also the single children, but the different thing is their parents are also the single children. So they're probably more self-centered, and they definitely embrace individualism as well. And they are also China's first generation of internet natives. Okay, some of the key trends in the food and drink sector in China that we have observed in last year and this year. One of them that started to become popular in, I would say, in 2 years ago, 2018, and then continues to be popular today is the brand crossover, or the brand collaboration, which means a food and drink brand to collaborate with another IP or another brand from a different sector, or remotely different, related to the food and drink sector. So one of the case here that you can see is the collaboration between White Rabbit, which is a milky kind of gummy flavor candy, to collaborate with a perfume brand called the steadily. So why these collaborations happen, and why local brands are so passionate about working with brands or IPs outside the food and drink sector. First reason is it creates a stronger brand impression, and it rejuvenates the brands, right, to make it feel younger and appeal to the younger customers. And it gives the consumers a diverse user experience. So a little bit introduction on the White Rabbit. So it's a confectionery brand that was probably established in the 1950s, 60s. So in my parents' and grandparents' generation, and was very popular during that time, got a little bit less popular and sort of died out in recent years because the younger generation have more choices. So to make itself more popular again, they decided to work with other brands and outside of the sector. So this happened in 2019. It worked with the steadily to develop a milky candy flavor perfume. And it became so popular that within 10 minutes of its official sale started, that over 14,000 pieces was just sold. And then over 600 gift packages were sold within 3 seconds. So I would think that the co-branded perfume target mostly the millennials, because people in my age have a bittersweet memory towards this White Rabbit candy. So it kind of stimulates us to buy this new kind of co-branded product line. So another trend that we have observed in recent years is the theme of nostalgia, or the national identity coming back. In Chinese, we call it 国潮, which means national identity. So to be different from the case of, for example, the White Rabbit collaborating with the perfume brand, Guochao, I think, targets more the Gen Z. Because Gen Z is quite different from the previous generation, that they were born into a generation, into a time that the country is already very strong, right? When they were born and when they grow up, China is already the second or third largest economy in the world. So they are the Gen Zs in China, quite proud of their identity, proud of the Chinese culture. And so this has encouraged the brands, especially local Chinese brands, to dig into the traditional culture, the Chinese identity for new ideas and new product innovations, right? So I think this is basically the reason behind this Guochao trend. So example you find here is a very famous pop soda brand called Kelly One. So last year, Kelly One had come up with a new product series. You can see on the packaging, there's this featuring a lady in a Chinese traditional costume, and then some elements that you can find from traditional Chinese paintings. So there are three ways that brands, either local or international, can take advantage of this Guochao trend. One of them is to develop a new packaging like Kelly One has done. Another way is to borrow another IP and to work with this IP to develop a new product line, like what B& Cherry has done in this slide. So B& Cherry is one of the largest Chinese nut snacks producers. And towards the end of 2019, it had worked with a TV show IP called National Treasure. So National Treasure is a TV production that basically works with the different museums in China and to tell stories behind each Chinese treasure. So B& Cherry had worked with National Treasure to develop a new product series here. As you can see, the packaging is quite Chinese. And it has given this new product line a name called 气象万千, which means 1,000 splendid luck. So it's quite celebrating and quite Chinese. And one more way that we have observed that brands entering the Guochao trend is to develop a new IP or new product from the beginning using all traditional elements from Chinese culture. So showing you this picture is a Chinese popsicle brand called Zhongxuegao. Zhongxuegao was established in March 2018 and had quickly become very, very popular among young Chinese consumers. So before brands like Zhongxuegao appeared, Chinese local ice creams or popsicles used to be very, like they're targeting consumers with a lower income. So they're sold very, very cheap compared to international ice cream brands in China, for example, the Magnum. You will see Chinese local ice creams very cheap in the supermarkets. But then Zhongxuegao and other brands similar to Zhongxuegao had entered the market in recent years, and they have a very different brand strategy and positioning. So one popsicle of a typical Zhongxuegao ice cream can be sold around 10 RMB, which is quite expensive. And they claim to use the best imported raw material, and produced at the best standard possible. So this has changed basically the landscape of Chinese domestic ice cream sector from the beginning. And you can see Zhongxuegao. I put a picture of a Chinese architecture here. So the shape of Zhongxuegao popsicle is very similar to the traditional tiles that you find on traditional Chinese houses. So plant-based alternative meat continues to be very popular in China last year and this year expected as well. Studies show that the international market size for plant-based alternative meat is around 20 billion pounds by 2025, and out of which around 10 billion pounds will be contributed by the Chinese market, which means China generally consists half of the global plant-based meat market. And a study within the Chinese consumers asking about the attitude towards the plant-based alternative meat shows that 45% of the Chinese consumers express that they have an extremely high potential to repurchase the plant-based meat products, and 44% have high potential to repurchase. When you take a closer look at the plant-based alternative meat market, you will find that both international and domestic players have already entered the market. For example, we have showed here 3 major players. One of them is called Hey Meat. It's a Shanghai-based Chinese company that are founded by both Chinese and US scientists, and they focus on the R&D and production of plant-based alternative meat. And at the same time, KFC, for example, and Nestle have all come up with ingredients or meals that are made by plant-based alternative meat. If you go into a KFC, you're probably in China, you'll probably be able to find veggie meat burgers and veggie nuggets. And the same for Nestle. You can see the nice packages of ready-to-make, ready-to-cook plant-based meat products. And when China is coming out from the COVID lockdown, people are surprised to find self-heated everything dominating the market. So the self-heated food market has taken off basically during the COVID for obvious reasons, right? So for Chinese self-heated food market, in 2019, the market size is around 3.45 billion RMB. And also from e-commerce platforms, you can also observe that the market size have more than doubled within the last year. So when we're talking about the self-heated food, what are we talking about? So there, as I said, there's basically self-heated everything from hot pot to self-heated noodles and rice. So I'm just giving some examples of some of the products available in the market. They're either from the established brands that are already in the market, but in other subcategories, or they're new markets just focused on self-heated food that have just entered the market during and after COVID. For example, Zihaiguo is a new brand that has emerged, and it focuses only on self-heated products. Whereas you have Best Door, which is traditionally a nuts and snack brand, and Master Kong, which is owned by a Taiwanese group, which has a variety of product lines, including drinking water, biscuits, and instant noodles. And these two have also developed their own self-heated food product lines. And I have today just brought a self-heated hot pot from a convenience store downstairs in case you want to see how it looks like. So I'm a fan of these, and it's really easy to make. So within these, I'm not going to open it, but within these, you will see a package of food, which is basically the noodles and the meat. And then also it comes in 2 layers. And on the bottom layer, there's a packet which can be heated up when it needs water. And then you just add water to the bottom and add water to the raw material and then put them together within 15 to 20 minutes, then you can enjoy your own self-heated hot pot. And last but not least, a very popular product from the last year is the zero sugar pop drinks. I'm sure many of you probably have seen or heard of Genki Forest. It's an emerging zero sugar pop drink that has expanded very fast in China during the last year. So research shows that in 2019, the zero sugar pop drink market is 15 billion RMB and expected to reach 32 billion RMB by 2025. For Genki Forest, for example, it has the annual growth of Genki Forest was around 44% compared to only 5% for drinking water, mineral water. So this has showed us that the Chinese consumers are growing increasingly more self-conscious and are willing to spend a little bit more to drink and eat healthily. I have also brought a Genki Forest drink from the convenience store downstairs. It looks like this. It's very appealing, very light. The packaging is very light. It comes in different flavors. This one's peach, so it's pink. It also comes with lime, which is green, and some other flavors. It's sold almost similar to a bottle of Coke, so not heavily overpriced. So what can we do for international food and drink brands? How can we take advantage of the growing food and drink markets in China? So we think the way to go is really to have innovative products targeting young and independent urban consumers. Some tips for doing this. One of them is to have a smaller packages. So as we discussed before about the demographic features of Chinese population, the family units are becoming smaller in urban China. So that means that the family size or shareable packaging are no longer popular in China. So we have shown here a picture of products developed by Three Squirrels, again, one of the leading nuts brands in China. So Three Squirrels have come up with this mixed nut products that come in small individual daily packages that have become very, very popular. So each serving is supposedly sufficient for an adult's daily intake of nuts. And it comes in sorted mixes, including nuts, you can see almonds and pistachios, and then some dried cranberries to add to the taste, right? So the packages are highly portable. So it's very friendly for working ladies in offices to keep them in their backpacks and to eat in their offices without creating a big mess. Another way to go is to develop more portable packaging. This is again to suit the young urban white-collar office workers in China. So here on the example, you can see this is a Starbucks takeaway delivery package that you can find in Starbucks in China. Portable packaging has become very essential for white-collar urban consumers living in a fast-paced environment, basically for those people that are always traveling en route. And easy to prepare food has become very popular and will continue to be popular this year. And the reason behind that is that Chinese young consumers now have less time to cook, and also the various takeout and delivery apps give them less incentives to cook at home anyway. So why bother cooking when you can order something that can arrive at your door warm and fresh within 30 minutes, right? So in that case, various easy to prepare or self-heated products have become very popular. Here we're showing an example of a Japanese mixed cereal and again, the self-heated, the hot pot. Okay, so how do we reach our target consumer? How do we communicate with the Gen Zs in China? So as we mentioned before, so the Gen Zs are the people born between 1997 to 2010. They are now taking 15% of China's population already. And they are China's first generation of digital natives, which means they have very different ways of interacting with brands and to make purchase decisions. And some of the features of Gen Zs in general for China that we have observed, that the Chinese Gen Zs are very optimistic. They tend to make very impulsive purchase decisions, and they tend to overspend, just like Gen Zs everywhere else. And they want their unique products, services, and experiences. And they can also grow very loyal to brands once they like the brands or they have used them before. And since they are internet natives, they are able to compare, they're very familiar with the different e-commerce platforms. They're able to compare channels before they make a purchase. And they are very easily influenced by KOLs, and they believe in the word of mouth. So here you can find a chart comparing Chinese Gen Zs with the Generation Zs in different countries, including Australia, Japan, and South Korea. And you can see that Chinese Gen Z tend to make more impulsive decisions compared to their counterparts in different countries. So how do we influence the Generation Zs in China? So I do think that brands need to differentiate themselves from the mainstream brands and build their unique product propositions, and to communicate these brand messages clearly to the Generation Z to build brand loyalty. And it is also very important to have multiple presence in multiple channels to allow Generation Z to take reference and to compare and to have a consistent user experience. And working with KOL has never been so important in the Chinese market for brand to convey the product messages to the new generation. And also Chinese Generation Z value their privacy more than their previous generations, which means that the brands and the distributors need to be very transparent and need to convey very clear messages to the consumers that how their personal data are being used. Okay, showing here is a China consumer calendar of some of the key dates for marketing campaign, sales campaigns. So I'm not going to go into details, but you'll be able to download the presentation and take a closer look by yourself. So here we're showing the key dates from March all the way to December. And you can see marked in red are some of the newly created shopping festivals created by Chinese e-commerce players, including very soon we'll have the June 18 Consumer Festival and the most important Double 11 Singles Day sales campaign in November. And some of the platforms to use in China, I'm sure a lot of you already have accounts on WeChat, which is the most important social tool, social and life surviving tool in China, as well as Weibo. And Red, or the little red book, is very important for seeding. And some of the niche channels, depending on which subsector your brand belong to, include Keep. So it's a diet slash fitness kind of app. And we have ETL. And some of the important e-commerce platforms to pay attention to include the Alibaba groups, Tmall and Taobao, and JD.com, WeChat Store, Red, and also I've listed here Penguin Guide and Lady Penguin. These are a bit more niche e-commerce platforms that target wine, beer, spirits lovers in China. And at the last, you'll be able to find some other channels for seeding, including Douyin, Bilibili, Zhihu, and Baidu Tieba. So these are the platforms that Chinese young people will usually go if they have any questions on anything at all to seek others' opinions. Okay, at the last, I think I will end this presentation with a case study of, I think, a very interesting brand, Jägermeister. So this, I believe, is a German term, and I hope I'm pronouncing it right. So Jäger, or is it Jägermeister? I think it's Jäger probably, because in Chinese it's Jäger. So Jägermeister, it's a German liquor that has entered the Chinese market in 2011. I do believe it's a well-established brand in Germany, but when it first entered China, and virtually before 2018, it had basically no awareness among the Chinese consumers at all. And until November 2018, it became very, very popular suddenly on Chinese social media. And we do know the distributors of Jäger, and we have interviewed them, and they are also very confused of the reason behind the sudden popularity of Jäger. So we have investigated in this a bit, and then we found that the reason behind all this popularity is on Douyin. It's a blogger on Douyin one day discovered this product and decided to make a number of cocktails, especially a cocktail called Jäger Bomb, using this. And then many other bloggers just followed, and they became just a phenomenon. So as a result, Jäger annual sales in China reached around 57 million euro in a year, which can be quite impressive for an international spirit brand in Chinese market. On the right are some of the screenshots I took from Douyin of various bloggers making various drinks and teaching others to make them on Douyin. My favorite is it's the right top corner where you see this white lady in a white shirt. What she's trying to make is actually something called Jäger Latte. So she has next to herself milk she bought from supermarket, as well as some yogurt drink that I think it's just amazing. So what you can find about on Douyin about yogurt is that a lot of the bloggers promoting the drink is actually young ladies, young female consumers. They are very proud of knowing a lot about the spirits, a lot about bars. So they want to stand out, and then they want to show their fans that they are not just about cosmetics and fashion, that they can be just as good as their male counterparts when it comes to spirits. So I think the key takeaway for brand owners, international food and drink brand owners in China is to create this very unique product character. So Jaeger, I think it becoming very popular is also not a coincidence. If you examine the product, the message it conveys to consumers, it's wild and rebellious, which just it's similar with the beliefs of the Gen Zs, the young Chinese consumers. And it is also very important for brand owners and the distributors to create scenarios to use the products instead of just listing the products on the shelves of supermarkets. You have to make the consumers have ways of using it and showing it to their friends. So a bit more on CBBC and our services. So we do offer a large number of in-market services, including market research, partner identification, events organization. Just to list some of the services we offer, these include China Navigator, where we can attend a show or to visit a market on behalf of a client. And we hold a number of China business culture training and webinars and master classes. And we offer bespoke project-based service called China Gateway. And very soon in April, we're hosting our first UK-China Consumer Week, where we will have a full day of content, where we'll take brands' hands and walk them through the Chinese consumer market to introduce the latest brands, latest trends, and then how to work with KOLs and how to work with different e-commerce platforms. And we'll have two bespoke sessions of Meet a China Buyer sessions targeting the food and drink and retail brands. So some of these contents will be free, open to all, and some of them will be chargeable, and some of them will be only open to British businesses. If you would like to know more about our services and Consumer Week or anything about the Chinese market at all, please feel free to reach out to me or Antonetta, who is my sector counterpart based in the UK. And that will be all.
Thank you, Goran, for your great presentation. We are almost running out of time, so I will move directly into the questions. We have received a few, but of course, if there are other questions, please feel free to write them in the chat. I will first start with Ilya. Which institution is in charge of import rejection and who communicates the figures you presented? Yeah, maybe you can answer this first, and then we move to other questions.
Okay, so it's a very good question. In terms of the import rejection, and it is taken charge by GAC, that is China's customs. And GAC will publish the rejection data of each month on its official website, and Camlink will report this data each month. So you can just follow Camlink for this timely information. Yeah.
Thank you, Izzy. I also remember that the website there is monthly summaries of imports rejected from which countries, so you can also find that.
Yes.
Next question: is there any new information about the requirements to print or stick Chinese labeling prior to imports?
Yeah. So I think it's the question that many clients are concerned about. So as I mentioned just now, so this regulation has been open for public feedback twice. So in the first draft release, the draft mentioned that the label must be stacked or printed on the product package before it is exported to China. So in the second draft, this item remained unchanged. So this requirement remained unchanged. And even according to the private information we got, this requirement still remain the same. So that is to say, it is highly likely that it will be implemented, that the products must affix the label prior to the importation.
Thank you. I have one last question for you before moving to Iran. Where can I get the policies for advertising alcoholic products?
Okay, so it's also very good questions. So actually, serious regulations are there are several serious laws and regulations regulating the advertising of advertising food products. So here I want to mention just two most important ones. So the first is the advertising law, and we know the advertising law is the fundamental law of all advertising activities in China. So of course, it also applies to the advertisements of alcoholic products. And we also need to realize that the label is also part of the product promotion. And there is some special requirements for the alcoholic products, and such as the alcoholic products can be exempted from indicating the shelf life. So these, so for the labeling part, the enterprises can refer to GB 771A, the general labeling requirements for prepackaged food. And yeah, so if you have, actually it's very, a little bit, how to say, actually it is, you can email us for more comprehensive answers for this question. Yeah.
Thank you, Ilya. I will now move to Goran. First question for you relates to the EU-China Agreement on Geographical Indications, which was signed last year. So can you, what do you think about this? How is it implemented? Can you provide your feedback on it?
Yeah, thank you, Alessio. So I understand, so that is a very big achievement, milestone between the trade between China and Europe. And that I think it will involve more than 550 products in general. And the way I would say is opening to both channels. So it's not a one-way traffic, right? So that means Europe will be able to introduce more geography indicated products to China, and China can do the same, vice versa. So I think it's a general gesture of the Chinese government's willingness to strengthen its IP protection. We'll see similar actions taken by the Chinese government in various other sectors too. But then I think I'm still to see the detailed implementation strategies on this. So that would, in general, I think that will stop a lot of the counterfeits products in China. So we'll make sure that whatever consumer buys from Europe will be authentic and will be from that region only. But then I think detailed regulations on that and the any punishment, if that's violated, is still to be seen.
Thank you. Next question, last question actually. Could you say something more about the niche social sector? I think it was the Penguin network that you mentioned before. It was one on the second last slide, I think.
So I think it's the market is becoming more diverse. That's something I can observe for sure, that that you will see fans of various more niche products, and then there will be more platforms being created to serve their purpose. So I myself, I'm a loyal fan of the Penguin Guide, and we work closely with them as we work closely with many distributors in China. So if you are distributing, if you are the brand owner of a wine products, there are many niche social media, social platform or e-commerce platforms that you can use. If you want to get more details, please feel free to get in touch with us.
Thank you, Goran. So I would and the questions here. Of course, we also had other questions involving data about trade and reports. Of course, we have a lot available on the USME Center. We have many resources, many past reports. We have webinar recordings, also CBBC, that have database with reports that you can access. Of course, if you have other questions in the next days, please feel free to contact us. We have in-house and external experts that provide free technical assistance. We also we will send the slides together with the recording by email, together with an evaluation form, which basically is a short assessment of this webinar. And actually there is also a session where you can propose topics for webinars in the future. We have to do around 50 webinars. So we appreciate your ideas on topics that are of interest to you. Yes, I would. Of course, we talked today about many things of course, in the food and drink sector, but we touched upon standards, labeling, packaging, as well as cross-border e-commerce, key opinion leaders, consumers festivals, and we made two webinars last month, including one with CBBC about this, about how to involve KOL experts. So please feel free to go to watch the webinar recordings we have on our YouTube channel. So I would thanks the speaker for sharing your insights and knowledge of the topic, and I would also like to thank all the participants for your participation. Yeah, thank you, and have a good day or evening.
Thank you. Bye-bye.